Welcome to Medieval Castle Parts, a complete guide to the structure, defenses, and design of medieval castles. In this video, we'll explore the most important parts of a medieval castle, from the mighty keep and towering gatehouse to the drawbridge, portcullis, battlements, and beyond. You'll discover how these remarkable fortresses were built, how they defended against attack, and the fascinating stories behind the features that made them some of the most formidable structures of the medieval world. Presented by MedievalChronicles.com. Let's begin our journey inside the medieval castle. The moat was often the first obstacle an attacker would encounter when approaching a medieval castle. Most moats were filled with water, which was usually supplied by a nearby river, stream, lake, or natural spring. In some cases, channels were dug to divert water directly into the moat, helping keep it full throughout the year. A water-filled moat made it much more difficult for attackers to reach the castle walls. Siege equipment such as ladders, battering rams, and siege towers became far harder positioned, while soldiers attempting to cross the moat were left exposed to arrows and other weapons from the castle's defenders. As both a defensive barrier and a symbol of power, the water-filled moat played an important role in protecting some of the medieval world's greatest castles. The drawbridge provided the main route into and out of the castle, allowing people, supplies, and livestock to cross the moat safely. Constructed from heavy timber, drawbridges were raised and lowered using chains, ropes, winches, and counterweight systems built into the gatehouse. During times of peace, the bridge remained lowered, allowing visitors to enter the castle. However, when danger threatened, the drawbridge could be raised quickly, cutting off access and creating another powerful defensive barrier. Combined with the moat and gatehouse, the drawbridge formed an important part of the castle's outer defenses, helping protect those living within its walls. The gatehouse was one of the most important and heavily defended parts of a medieval castle. As the main entrance to the fortress, it controlled who could enter and leave, while also serving as a powerful defensive strongpoint during times of attack. Built with thick stone walls and defensive towers, the gatehouse often contained several layers of protection. These included heavy wooden doors, a portcullis that could be dropped rapidly to seal the entrance, and arrow loops that allowed defenders to fire at attackers while remaining protected. Above the gateway passage were guard rooms where soldiers were stationed to watch over the castle entrance. From these rooms, guards could operate the portcullis, monitor approaching visitors, and respond quickly if the castle came under threat. Some gatehouses also featured murder holes in the ceiling of the gateway passage, allowing defenders to attack enemies who had managed to breach the outer entrance. Combining defensive features, military personnel, and control of the castle's main access point, the gatehouse was often considered the castle's first line of defense and one of its strongest structures after the keep.
Parts of the gatehouse.
The portcullis was a heavy iron or wooden grille position within the entrance of the castle gatehouse. Designed as a rapid response defensive barrier, it could be raised and lowered using chains, ropes, and winch mechanisms operated by guards stationed in rooms above the gateway. If a castle came under attack, the portcullis could be dropped within seconds, sealing the entrance and preventing enemy soldiers from entering the fortress. Some castles featured multiple portcullises, allowing defenders to trap attackers inside the gatehouse passage while arrows, stones, and other missiles were launched from above. Simple, effective, and intimidating, the portcullis was one of the most important defensive features of the medieval castle. Located above or beside the main gateway, the guard room was home to the soldiers responsible for protecting the castle entrance. From this strategic position, guards could monitor approaching visitors, identify potential threats, and control access to the castle. The guard room also served as the operating center for important defensive features such as the portcullis and drawbridge. During an attack, soldiers stationed here could react quickly, sealing the entrance and taking up defensive positions within seconds. In many castles, the guard room was equipped with weapons, supplies, and lookout points overlooking the gateway below, making it a vital part of the castle's defensive system. As the first line of response to any danger, the soldiers stationed in the guard room played a crucial role in keeping the castle and its inhabitants safe. Murder holes were openings built into the ceiling of the gatehouse passageway, directly above the route attackers would use to enter the castle. If enemy soldiers managed to force their way through the outer entrance, they could find themselves trapped in the narrow gateway below. From rooms above, defenders could attack the murder holes by dropping stones, timber, hot sand, quicklime, or pouring boiling water onto the attackers beneath. Contrary to popular belief, boiling oil was rarely used, as it was far too expensive to waste during a siege. Combined with the portcullis and heavy gatehouse doors, murder holes turned the entrance passage into a deadly trap, allowing defenders to attack enemies from a position of safety above. Simple but highly effective, murder holes were one of the gatehouses' most feared defensive features. Arrow loops were narrow openings built into the walls of castles, allowing defenders to fire arrows at attackers, while remaining protected behind thick stone walls. These openings are also commonly known as arrow slits, loopholes, or archery slits. Their narrow design made it difficult for enemy archers to fire back effectively, while giving defenders a clear view of the surrounding area. Arrow loops were often wider on the inside than the outside, creating a funnel-shaped opening that allowed archers a greater range of movement and a wider field of fire. Found in gatehouses, towers, and curtain walls throughout the castle, they enabled defenders to cover key approaches and attack enemy soldiers long before they reached the walls. Simple in appearance but highly effective in battle, arrow loops were an important part of a medieval castle's defensive system, helping defenders strike from safety while keeping attackers at a distance. The curtain wall was the main defensive wall that surrounded a medieval castle, forming a protective barrier between the castle and the outside world. Built from thick stone and often stretching around the entire fortress, curtain walls were designed to withstand attack while providing defenders with a commanding view of the surrounding landscape. These walls connected the castle's towers and gatehouses, creating a continuous line of defense around the perimeter. Soldiers could patrol along the wall walk at the top, watching for approaching enemies and responding quickly to any threat. Arrow loops, battlements, and defensive towers were often built into the curtain wall, allowing defenders to fire upon attackers while remaining protected behind stone cover. More than just a wall, the curtain wall formed the backbone of the castle's defenses, helping to protect the people, buildings, and valuable resources contained within the fortress. Battlements were the distinctive defensive structures built along the tops of castle walls and towers, providing protection for soldiers defending the fortress. They consisted of alternating high stone sections called merlons and open gaps known as crenellations. Defenders could shelter behind the merlons and then step into gaps to fire arrows, crossbow bolts, or throw missiles at attackers below. Battlements also formed part of the wall walk, allowing guards to patrol the castle perimeter, monitor the surrounding countryside, and respond quickly to any threat. From this elevated position, defenders could see approaching enemies long before they reached the castle walls, giving them a significant tactical advantage. Combining protection, visibility, and mobility, battlements were one of the most recognizable and effective features of medieval castle defenses. Towers were among the most important defensive features of a medieval castle, providing defenders with elevated positions from which to observe and protect the surrounding area. Built at key points along the curtain wall, towers allowed soldiers to watch for approaching enemies and communicate warnings across the castle's defenses. Their height gave defenders a significant advantage in battle, enabling them to fire arrows, crossbow bolts, and other missiles down onto attackers below. Many towers also projected outwards from the castle walls, allowing defenders to cover sections of the wall that would otherwise be difficult to defend. This helped eliminate blind spots and made it much harder for attackers to approach the castle unnoticed. In addition to their military role, some towers contained living quarters, storage rooms, and guard posts, making them an important part of everyday castle life. Combining defense, observation, and accommodation, castle towers played a vital role in protecting the fortress. The bailey was the enclosed courtyard area found within a medieval castle's defensive walls and served as the center of everyday castle life. Unlike many other castle features, a castle could have more than one bailey. Some castles were built with an outer bailey and an inner bailey, while larger castles could contain several separate baileys within their defenses. The outer or lower bailey often contained workshops, stables, storehouses, kitchens, and accommodation for soldiers and servants. These areas supported the day-to-day running of the castle and provided space for essential supplies and livestock. The inner or upper bailey was usually more secure and often contained the castle's most important buildings, such as a great hall, chapel, and keep. In times of attack, Defenders could retreat from the outer bailey into these more heavily protected areas. The use of multiple baileys created additional layers of defense. Even if attackers managed to breach one section of the castle, they would still face further walls, gates, and fortified areas before reaching the castle's most important buildings. As both a working community and an important defensive feature, the bailey was often the busiest part of a medieval castle, filled with people, animals, and the daily activity that kept the fortress running. The Great Hall was the heart of medieval castle life and one of the most important buildings within the fortress. It served as the castle's main gathering place, where the lord of the castle held meetings, received important guests, administered justice, and hosted feasts and celebrations. Far more than just a dining hall, the Great Hall was the center of political, social, and administrative life. Important decisions affecting the castle and its surrounding lands were often made within its walls. The hall was typically a large open room with a high timber roof, long tables, and a raised platform known as a dais, where the lord and his family sat during meals and special occasions. During the day, the hall bustled with activity as servants, officials, soldiers, and visitors went about their business. In the evening, it became a place for dining, entertainment, music, and storytelling. As the focal point of castle life, the Great Hall was a powerful symbol of wealth, authority, and hospitality, bringing together everyone who lived and worked within the castle walls. The chapel was an important part of medieval castle life, reflecting the central role that religion played in society during the Middle Ages. Most castles contained a chapel where the lord, his family, soldiers, servants, and other residents could attend religious services, pray, and observe important Christian festivals. Chaplains were often employed to conduct services, celebrate marriages, perform baptisms, and provide spiritual guidance to those living within the castle. Castle chapels range from simple rooms to beautifully decorated buildings featuring stained glass windows, stone carvings, painted walls, and ornate altars. For many people living in the medieval world, faith was an important part of everyday life, and the chapel provided a place for worship, reflection, and comfort during both peaceful times and periods of conflict. As a spiritual center within the castle, the chapel served not only the religious needs of its inhabitants, but also reinforced the power and status of the lord who built and maintained it. The keep was the strongest and most heavily defended part of the castle. Designed as the final line of defense, it provided a secure refuge for the lord, his family, and key defenders during an attack. Its thick stone walls, elevated entrances, and limited access points made it extremely difficult for attackers to capture. Even if the outer walls and courtyard were overrun, defenders could retreat to the keep and continue resisting for days, weeks, or even months. The keep was also the center of castle life, containing living quarters, storage rooms, a great hall, and essential supplies needed during a siege. More than just a defensive structure, it was a symbol of power, authority, and control within the castle. Standing high above the surrounding walls, the keep served as both a fortress and a statement of strength, reminding all who saw the lord's presence and influence. Thank you for watching. For more medieval castle videos and extra resources, visit our website www.medievalchronicles.com or explore the videos linked on screen.